I don't know why it is exactly, but like how Star Wars has become this big flashpoint of like the culture and like the reactionary like YouTube critics and
Yeah. Rob, listen. All right. I think you don't
yeah,
understand. Maybe it's because you've been a Star Trek fan most of your life, but like
yeah.
for Star Wars, like I need to be able to see myself reflected in the face of a white male protagonist. And if I can't do that, we got a problem. And not just the protagonist, but quite literally, you span the newest show, Acolyte, and
Yeah.
barely a white male to be found. How am I supposed to,
I don't
resonate
know.
with that?
I know. It's just incomprehensible.
Yeah.
It's weird because you could maybe, if you had that feeling, you could maybe, if you had a sort of sense of empathy, you might
Yeah.
be able to sort of realize how people from other cultures and different
Sure.
backgrounds
Sure.
have felt watching all these big pop culture phenomenons over the years,
Yeah.
and maybe
Yeah.
have
Okay.
like a small modicum of sympathy for the fact that there hasn't been this same level of representation. But these folks just can't quite grab it though.
That's my other big thing is like, how much of a nerd are you to really know enough about expanded universe stuff to get mad at Acolyte? Because this is not like Skywalker story stuff. Like, you have to be a big
Yeah.
weirdo, like nerd to really be like, well, actually, they got the birth date wrong of my favorite guy.
Yeah, I
Like
was just gonna mention
nobody.
Kaya D. Mundi. It's like, do you really care about that? Really?
It's
Like,
that,
come on. Like, are you
you
actually?
know?
And like, listen, I know Star Wars stuff. I know Kaya D. Mundi is a delightful guy, but like, do
Yeah,
you really?
yeah.
Are you really getting up in arms about this? Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Right. Is that going to make or break how you kind of like see it? Like all of these things are just so fluid and who cares at the end of the day if canon is just like set in stone or not? Like as things
Yeah.
get like larger, like those things always break apart anyways, you know?
Well, that's the thing. I've been watching the show. I think I watched 3 episodes of it. I don't totally love it. I've
Yeah.
been watching it, getting through it. But at the same time, it's like when I have that reaction of not really loving it, I just kind of go, and I just kind of
I
move
mean,
on with
that's
my
it. Like
day. And
I was saying
that's the
this
end of it.
morning, I think it's interesting, but I also think that it's not gonna be an Andor or anything like that. You know what I mean? Like Andor was a show where I was like, oh, we're doing something very structurally different
Yeah.
from a lot of like Star Wars, like and that's actually quite an anomaly because maybe it came a little before like the ideation and weaponization of culture war on the conservative side of things, but like Andor is very much a hey, I don't know, man. Like here's some Marxist like side characters and everything that are gonna explain to you like the impropriety of the prison system, and it's just like, oh, okay, all right, sure,
How did these like weird YouTube reactionary culture critics react
yeah.
to Endor? Were they into that? Because like that
That's what I'm saying. I
Endor, you would
don't I
describe it
don't
as being
remember
woke
them
by
having
any
a real
metric.
reaction to it at all, if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. I mean, maybe that was more like at that point, because right now it's just kind of like a frothing mob of people, right? Before that started with people like the Quartering and whatnot that would regularly get mad at Marvel movies and everything, and they were kind of like the progenitors of this like newer like culture movement. And now you have all these little like bottom like barnacles, right? Like
Yeah.
drums and all these freaks that are kind of like wandering around just saying who knows, whatever, just so that they can, get their 7-year like beta game like funded a little more on Kickstarter. But like, I think that really started with the Quarterings, the Golden Gods, or whatever, like all those weird, like just kind of culture critics on YouTube. And I honestly don't know. I don't know what their like response was to Andor. Maybe they just thought it was like The Boys. They just thought it was a fine show because they didn't like want to read any of the subtext, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. There's
That's the
also the
craziest thing to me is The
yeah.
Boys reaction. It's like, wait a
Yeah, I can't
second.
believe this.
Is this
Yeah.
show woke? It's like, brother, 2 seasons ago, there was a full-on Nazi that was just like, and this is how we fool everyone.
Yeah. I mean, even like you get 1 or 2 episodes of Homelander. It's like, oh yeah, I get
Yeah.
the satire here. This is not like it's not
Right,
that
right,
subtle,
right.
It's like it's
At what
pretty
point was
pretty out
somebody
in the
like, "No, no,
open.
no, okay, this is played pretty straight."
These people fascinate me, Like I enjoy talking about pop culture, and even sometimes I have things that I have criticism of or whatever.
Sure.
But like, I also can't really imagine making that your entire personality, just like every single day of your life and your
Right.
job and your career as well. It's like you've trapped yourself in this prison of your own design, watching stuff that makes you angry, and then you're just yelling about it online. And this is all these people do. It seems like their entire personalities and their entire lives just revolve around getting mad about stuff that Disney or whatever is doing, and
Sure.
making other people mad about it. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like that fulfilling to me.
Yeah, it doesn't at all, and I don't even understand the audience that appeals to it, because there's a lot of folks that are like, well, back in the day, we used to have this and this. Like, well, no, back in the day you had the Hays Code and you didn't get any of this shit. So like, what golden like time are you really like trying to grasp at? Like the late '90s, where I guess like it did exist, and things like Ace Ventura and everything else, where maybe you get like some off color like transphobia and everything,
Yeah, yeah.
like there really wasn't like that big of a window outside of like maybe the late '90s and the early 2000s, where this was really the norm, so maybe they are like older millennials remembering like their adolescence, but this really hasn't, the like off color like shock humor, leading into like slurs and everything, has just never really been that big of a, pot to kind of like leach out of,
Yeah, and as people always often point out, like people were talking about this when Seinfeld was doing his whole like
Yeah.
his kind of like anti woke thing, which is hilarious because it's Jerry Seinfeld, the most like G rated like
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's not like he's
observational
Bob Saget
humor
or
guy.
something, and like
Yeah.
his stand up is like the crudest thing you could imagine. He's just like, and what's the deal with,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but that's people were pointing out. Like, there's plenty of shows now that push boundaries and are
yeah,
offensive.
yeah.
That doesn't mean that like just because things have evolved over time, it doesn't mean that like you're just not allowed to ever push anyone's buttons or make fun of anybody. Like, if you're funny, you can actually do that. If you
Absolutely, yeah. That's the entire thing. Yeah, it's very strange to me, like this ideation that like and like the other thing, like Jerry Seinfeld saying like comedy is like dead or whatever. It's like what an incredible thing to do just a week before this absolute dumpster fire of a movie that he
yeah.
directed came out. He's just like front loading and comedy is dead. It's like, yeah, I guess I'd say that too if I was about to drop like a real doozer.
Yeah, I'm sorry your Pop Tarts movie didn't really
That
make
wasn't the
everyone go
killer app,
crazy.
huh? That
Yeah.
wasn't the thing that you were hoping. It wasn't Citizen Kane. That's strange.